UFP, the United Federation of Podcasts.
Welcome to Franchise Fatigue, the little podcast on the United Federation of Podcast Network, where your hosts go through all the movies, remakes, and sequels in a film franchise, and we talk about them for you. Joining me, as always, is my wonderful co-host, back from the dead to help me out again, because we thought he was dead last time, but he's not, Zach Moore.
Could have fixed my leg, though.
I know, I'm sorry, I just needed you back quick, because I need you to edit this stuff. So you don't need your leg for editing.
No, very good, Brandon.
And joining us 10 years before his wonderful debut on a zombie TV show, Lance Armstrong.
Y'all don't know who you're messing with.
That is a quote from Blade.
Yep.
It was made family-friendly.
It's the family-friendly quote from this movie.
This is a family show. Now, if you want to hear us curse, go to our Patreon. We go full Star Trek Picard in our Patreon. There's F-bombs left and right. But here on the United Federation Podcast main feed, we keep it family-friendly.
I will admit, so I watched this movie a week and a half ago at like 2 a.m. when I couldn't sleep.
That's the best time to watch.
I really think
Blade
that's how
movies.
it was meant to be experienced, Brandon.
To be quite honest.
Yeah. Well, in case you can't figure out what we're talking about today, we're talking about Blade 2,
Cruise
Blade
Control.
Harder. Cruise Control. You know what's funny is I was thinking Cruise Control, and then I said something else, and you said Cruise Control. That's kind of funny.
That's how in sync we are.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly.
Guillermo del Toro. This is so weird.
Right? Isn't it weird that Guillermo del Toro? Why is he directing this film?
Why is it weird?
Well, first of all, not to get into trivia just yet, but this is the only film he's directed that he hasn't like written and like been involved with intimately from the inception of it. Like just coming in for a superhero sequel out of nowhere is odd to me.
Okay.
Okay, and from my point of view as well, like Guillermo del Toro is one of those auteur filmmakers who's like, I am going to make my art house, good or bad, he's going to make his art house films, and he's going to make the type of films that he wants to do. So to come in and do a sequel to like a weird vampire thing, like this would be like if Steven Spielberg came in and did like Spider-Man 3.
Again, I asked my question. I asked this question because I see nothing weird about a director who obviously likes the material wanting to come and do something with the material, because all this Blade stuff is right up Guillermo del Toro's alley. So I see it. I don't see this as being weird or off the beaten path. Well, I see this as on brand for him.
Yeah, no, I'll give you this. I see what you're saying, and I think that Guillermo del Toro directing a Blade movie is more on brand for both than Quentin Tarantino directing a Star Trek movie.
I agree with you.
Right? Would you agree? I mean, Brandon, you're a big fan of that, but you can see where those kind of clash.
Right. So I don't have a problem with him directing it. I think it's really cool. And honestly, I wish more directors would do this. And that's why it's weird, is because they don't. Quentin Tarantino coming in to do a Star Trek really excited me for a completely different reason, because he's all about the 60s nostalgia and whatnot. And I could totally get on board with whatever he was going to do. And I love the idea that Del Toro is doing this movie, but I think it's very weird. That's all that I'm saying. I don't have a problem with it. I wish more people would do it. I wish we would get these people that love these kinds of movies. Like Soderbergh has talked about doing like a James Bond film. Like, why not?
He practically did it 3 times with the Ocean's trilogy. So, I mean...
Did he do Ocean's 8 as well, or was that someone else?
I'm not sure.
No, he didn't do Ocean's 8, no.
Are we going to do Ocean's 11 sometime on Franchise Fatigue?
Sure, I'll do it.
You should.
I don't love them. Believe it or not, my favorite's Ocean's 13.
Of course it is.
13's great.
All right, Lance,
it is great.
You'll be back on with the Ocean's movies.
Let's do it. I love those.
There is an Ocean's 8, which is
which I have not seen yet.
And
the original.
Ready to blow your mind, everyone. Ocean's 11 was a remake. The one you all think of with George Clooney, it's a remake from one from the 60s with Frank Sinatra and the Rat Pack. So
which I've also not seen, so I'd love to see this.
It's great as well.
I haven't seen the original either. I haven't seen the original,
Come on,
or I
y'all.
haven't seen Ocean's 8. But I've seen the Ocean's trilogy, as it's called.
Ocean's 13 is really good. It's definitely my favorite because it's just crazy off the wall. I absolutely love the subplot of them trying to start that union in Mexico. It's just brilliant.
It's
love
really
that.
good.
I want Guillermo del Toro to direct Ocean's 9.
I'm in. Let's do it.
Tying it all together. So Blade 2, that's what we're here to talk about this time. But yes, you're here first. 3 of us will be back to talk about the Ocean's movies at some point.
Excellent.
But Blade 2, directed by Guillermo del Toro. As we said, this is the only film that he's directed that he hasn't had like a writing credit on. David S. Goyer, who wrote the first film, wrote this. That led to some conflict between the two of them because Del Toro wasn't the biggest fan about David S. Goyer's writing. He points out a lot of groan-inducing dialogue on the DVD commentary, and a lot of the expository lines were just kind of facepalm-inducing. Like,
so he did the commentary?
Device.
He did the commentary for Blade Trinity?
Blade 2. We're not there yet, but yes.
Okay.
Well, a lot of lines like, "Now you've got an explosive device stuck to the back of your head." Like, okay, yeah, thanks for that. But those are the kind of lines that Del Toro was talking about. But why is Del Toro the director here? Stephen Norrington, who directed the first Blade, he turned down the chance to direct the sequel because he wanted to move on to other things. So, what those other things were, I don't really know. That's really the only film I know that he directed. But as we said, it opened the door for Del Toro. Now, this film, maybe it's a Del Toro thing, but it's the only film in the trilogy to be shot in 1:85:1 aspect ratio. The other films are shot in 2:35:1. I know we're all big fans of aspect ratio around here, so I wanted to point that out.
See, it's funny because the only high definition one I had was this one, and the other two I watched on that DVD set I borrowed from the library, which was like 2 discs, and they were in 1:33:1, so I wouldn't have even known that.
Only the best for you listeners here.
1:33:1, 2-channel audio for the other ones.
Brandon's written full screen copies from the library. Watching them at 2 a.m.
I'm not paying for these movies.
Anyway, well, Wesley Snipes, who returns as Blade, he was not recast by Omar Epps in the same way that Wesley Snipes was recast in the Major League trilogy. Wesley Snipes has said this is his personal favorite of the Blade movies. Now, that doesn't mean he was on set for every scene, though, because he wasn't available for every day they needed him, because he starred in 3 other films that came out in 2002. So the production, being smart, they're like, all right, let's try to find a way to shoot around this. And there are a couple scenes when you couldn't really see Blade's face, but once you know, it is so obvious. The 2 scenes are when they're in the helicopter, when they're going to the vampire headquarters for the first time, and then the other scene near the end where it's just him sitting in his room. Nissa is talking to him, and his back's to her, and he's like looking at like the wall. But they show enough of him, you're like, that is not Wesley Snipes. And you know what made me think of is Star Trek: The Next Generation episode, The Mind's Eye, where Geordi gets kidnapped by the Romulans, and they just have some other guy that they give his visor to, and like, here, have a good time on Risa. That's what it made me think of, because it's like, wait a minute, that's not LeVar Burton. So, to their credit, they got Wesley Snipes to do like ADR, so like you see the guy talking, so that's what tricks your mind into thinking it really is Wesley Snipes. But it's like, that's a bold move, Blade 2. And I feel like today they would have used face swap technology or deepfake or something to digitally replace his face with actual Wesley Snipes. But it's 2002, and even though the budget's bigger, they don't have the budget of that kind of thing. So I just thought that was very, very brazen of them to just film a scene, 2 scenes without Wesley Snipes in it as Blade.
ADR, it can do some pretty amazing things, let me tell you, for the suspension of disbelief.
Absolutely. So speaking of the cast, Tim Curry of It fame and Rocky Horror Picture Show, he was considered for the role of Damascus, but he was ultimately cast by Thomas Ketchen, I believe his last name is. To look that up, kind of a German actor. He plays the captain of the ship in Peter Jackson's King Kong remake. He was also the spoilers, James McAvoy's actual dad in Wanted. So just spoiled that movie for all you who hadn't seen it yet. You're welcome. Moving on, Donnie Yen.
That was something I didn't wanted.
Very good. Very good, Brandon. Now, Donnie Yen, who most people know these days from...
Ip Man.
Well, these days from Star Wars Rogue One is Star Wars.
No, people still know him these days from Ip Man.
Yeah,
let's get it. Let's get it correct.
3 or 4 movies?
Yeah.
Ip Man? Okay.
I haven't seen those yet. We doing those, Lance?
You should do those on this as well.
Lance is just punching his ticket to
I
stay
am.
on this podcast.
This is my show now.
That's right. I'm taking over.
Ip Man is a martial arts franchise starring Donnie Yen. But Donnie Yen, he was the fight choreographer here. He also plays Snowman in this film, and he has one really cool move where it's like he jumps up and does the double kick.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Like he does nothing else the whole movie really.
Yeah,
It sticks out, but that was really cool. So Donnie Yen, I am the Force, and the Force is with me, or something like that.
I'm one with the Force, and the Force is with me. Come
That's
on, man,
what
it's a good movie.
It's Brandon's favorite Star Wars movie, right?
It is.
This guy, love this guy. Now, the idea of the Reapers, the evolved mutant vampires having stingers coming out of their mouth, were inspired by Polish folktales, where vampires had stingers or fingers coming out of their mouth they used to suck the blood, rather than using teeth like the European and Eastern European vampire mythology is. Because I guess I always thought, I don't know what you guys think about vampires, but the teeth, they kind of like straws. That's how they suck out the blood. Does anyone else think that? Am I the only person who thought that?
I think I did when I was a child. And then when I grew up, I realized that they were just puncturing the skin, and then they would just suck it out from the holes.
Yeah, isn't it like similar to like a viper or like snakes?
Not venom. They would just puncture the neck, right? They'd have sharp teeth to puncture, and then they would just suck the blood.
Okay, well that makes sense. Moving on. We mentioned in our last stream for Blade 1, there was talk of using Morbius, right? The living vampire.
He's the number one on everybody's list.
Yeah, as of this recording, got a film coming out starring everyone's favorite Joker, Jared Leto, as Morbius, living vampire. But there was talk about using him as the primary villain in this film. But again, New Line didn't have the rights to that character. Marvel wanted to keep him possibly for his own separate franchise. So they didn't use him. So the story was changed slightly, and the Nomak character, Jared Nomak, was created and used as the primary villain instead. But you can see how, like, if they change a couple things, you can still fit in that character of Morbius. Now, the original script, it contained a sex scene between Blade and Nyssa. I'm not sure when it had a chance to happen. These Blade movies kind of happen really quickly, so I'm not really sure when that would have occurred. That's going to be a recurring theme in this film and the next one. Blade keeps getting his sex scenes cut. So, sorry, Wesley Snipes. And as far as interesting celebrity cameos, Michael Jackson was originally going to have a cameo in the House of Pain sequence. He was going to be a vampire pimp that encounters Nyssa when she's looking around upstairs. It's like, woo-hoo. He had to drop out due to scheduling conflict. And the part was given to a different actor. But that sequence was ultimately cut anyway for pacing purposes. But I'm sure if they would have filmed it with Michael Jackson, they would have kept it.
Let's talk about the real reason. They had to cut him because he was too pale to portray a vampire Nightwalker.
Very good. Now, Brandon, you might appreciate this, seeing as Doctor Strange is the only comic movie you've ever seen. During the fight between Blade and Nomak...
Okay, hold on. It's not the only one I've seen, okay? It's the only one of the new Marvels that I've seen, okay? The only one of those.
But during the fight between Blade and Nomak in the church section of the House of Pain, the stained glass window is a direct replica of Doctor Strange's medallion, the Eye of Agamotto. So, very cool, deep-cut reference to another Marvel Comics character.
I totally caught that.
Are you serious?
No.
Okay. I didn't think so. And they use a lot of UV light in this movie, to kind of fight the vampires. And on set, they used, I don't know what exactly they used. Like, it wasn't as powerful as it is portrayed in the movie. But over 30 members of the cast and crew were temporarily blinded because of misuse of UV lights in the vampire autopsy scene.
Wow.
Can you imagine that? Like, if that happened to me, if I thought for a second, like, I was going to be blind for the rest of my life, I was like freaked out.
Yeah.
Like, you imagine 30 people being like, oh my God, I can't see. And I'm like, I just fell out of carbonite, and somebody's going to say, it's okay, your eyesight will return in time. Yeah, right. But that is, seriously, that is a scary thing. So use UV light responsibly. That's my message.
See, now I'm picturing you, like, just rubbing your face, saying, who are you? And Guillermo del Toro holding you, saying, someone who loves you.
Okay. Oh, boy. Now, this is the only film in the Blade trilogy that uses its originally written ending. The first Blade and Blade Trinity had reshoots and alterations to their climaxes